Welcome to the Across the Pond Sports Network WNBA podcast, Across the Pond Liberty. I'm Stacia.
And I'm Kirstin.
All right, so I think this week went how we predicted it would go. Just unfortunately so, with the Liberty going 1-1, losing to the Las Vegas Aces and picking up a win against the Seattle Storm. Starting off with the Aces, we recorded last Thursday and they literally played that night. And I will just say I did expect the Aces to win, but I was disappointed in how the game was played through an effort standpoint is what I could see, especially in that third quarter.
Yeah, agreed. Watching the game, I'd thought Aces probably have this going into it, but they did kind of absolutely hammer the Liberty. We had all five of the Aces starting five, not just in double points, but comfortably in double points. Our starting five, can't say the same for them. I think we spoke last week saying that ideally, if the Liberty were going to win, if they were going to compete in this game, we would need our bench to be on form, our whole starting five to be on form, and it would be a very even game where no particular player was like scoring lights out. Everyone was consistently on the charts, and that wasn't really the case. We had three starting five in double figures, and Laney, not a great game. Ionescu, also not a very great game. So yeah, I think I agree with you on the point that the effort wasn't quite there this week.
And that can be attested to, like, or attributed to the fact that that was our fourth game in 8 days. It's not going to get any easier because especially after the All-Star break, they literally have, I wanna say, like, 7 games in 12 days, if I believe, because they have a makeup game from the Apocalypse, cancellation with the Lynx. They added that one to July, so it's gonna be rough coming up here, so, but you're going into Vegas, and Vegas had been playing well. They played at home, and the Liberty literally a few days before played against the Sun and then had to immediately fly to Vegas. And I mean, there's a lot of people in town, so the the Aces were ready to make a show. But on your point of saying that they all had double figures, Kelsey Plum was the only one that had double figures going into the second half. And then by the end of the third quarter, all of the Aces starters were in double figures. So, I mean, that just tells you who cared, not cared, was hungry, was ready in that third quarter because it was just a barrage of Vegas creating turnovers, getting all the 50-50 balls. That, I think, is the biggest thing, is the Liberty just kind of let every frustration just kind of come out on any ball that was a loose ball, Vegas got to. Or there was at one point where Stewie had a play and had a pass to Kayla Thornton for a wide open layup, and she just missed it at the end of the third quarter, I believe. And it was just a microcosm of everything that was happening, that everything was going wrong for the Liberty and everything was going right for the Aces. But for everything to go right for you, you have to, because that extra effort makes things go right for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as well seeing from the statistics, it is that third quarter just absolutely killed us. Quarter one, quarter two, we competed. We only lost by like a couple points, but quarter three, 27 points to the Aces to 14 points for the Libs. They killed us. And you find this is quite a common trend in a lot of basketball games. The third quarter tends to be a kind of make or break where you have the half, teams have the opportunity to reconvene, discuss, right, what do we need to change about our game? How can we get more assists? How can we get more points? How can we stop their scorers from scoring and adjust our game to how they're playing on this day? The Aces came in and they got the momentum and they absolutely ramped it up, and the Liberty just couldn't keep up. Liberty, they had 17 turnovers in that game, which is a lot of turnovers. Um, And yeah, the Aces, they just look so fluid. The whole game, they just look so fluid. You can tell like they've been playing together for a while. We had also all of the starters on at least 3 assists. They shared the ball so well. And the Liberty just, they just didn't look like they had that same chemistry. And like you said, they were frustrated, they tired from having traveled the day before, but that's just how it is in the league. You know, you're traveling constantly. There's only so many teams that you can play at home each week. So it's something that, maybe explains the game, but it doesn't really excuse the lack of fluidity and chemistry in the game. So, but the Aces, they just played amazing basketball.
And we talked about this before the podcast. I said that I can see the Aces, even though I said on the WNBA podcast, there's no way they were gonna go undefeated because it's a professional league, and, I mean, that ship has sailed, but I see them winning 36 of their 40 games, just winning 90% of their games, and I think that they can even win, they could be sitting at, like, 38 or sorry, like, gosh, like, 36 and 2, and then the last 2 games, just chill before the playoffs, like, coasting to that 1 seed. I can see that happening. But sometimes the best team in the league doesn't end up winning. I mean, case in point with Chicago 2 years ago happened, and you never know what can who can get hot. And I mean, the Liberty definitely can make a million threes in a game and can always be challenging. Um, but yeah, the Aces, the effort was just extraordinary. And I told my mom this that when you have all of your starters with a gold medal, the Aces, Candace Parker has gold medals. Asia Wilson's got a gold medal. Chelsea Gray, Kelsey Plum, and Jackie Young have the 3-on-3 gold medal. Every single one of the starters has a gold medal. And then, like, that is insane. 4 out of the 5 of them are literal number 1 picks in the draft. Like, come on. Come on. Like, and then Alicia Clark, who is their first sub off the bench normally, almost put up 3,000 points in college and has been in the league for years and has 2 titles. Like, seriously? Seriously. Seriously. That's how that's what I felt like watching the game with the Aces, is like, I wanna hate on this, but I can't. I can't.
No,
Oh
like
gosh.
it was, and it was such a highly anticipated game as well because there's been all these talks about super teams and everything, and what they were saying at the end of the game, both Hammond and Sandy Brondello were saying, yeah, okay, this matchup happened, Aces came away with the win today, but let's not get comfortable. Or from the Liberty's perspective, let's not lose heart. This was the first game. We still have more games to play against them this season, and as we know, Aces have had all that time to gel together. The Liberty still have time to gel together, get more wins under their belt, get more time playing together under their belt. And the Aces are aware, like, just, yeah, sure, okay, they bet them 98 to 81 points today. But give them a couple weeks, give them time, and the Liberty will be right back. They'll be right back for that revenge win against the Aces. So at least they know what they're up against, and they know not to overlook them. Just because they killed them today doesn't mean they're gonna kill them again.
I mean, that's happened where there's been a team that has killed him on the first game and then doesn't win in the end because just,
Mhm.
plugging away and having that tenacity to get better to not let this happen again is always something that's apparent. But going back to how good Vegas is and the kind of the microcosm of the game besides the Kayla Thornton, like, missed wide open layup, my play of the game would be Alicia Clark making a three-pointer at the end of the 3rd quarter with, like, 47 seconds left to put them up 76-54. And it's not that she made the three-pointer, it's that Vegas had 3 offensive rebounds to get her another look at the three-pointer. And it's not that they had 3 offensive rebounds, it's the fact that they literally were up by 19 points and still were like, "We're gonna get the ball." And then
Mhm.
she makes it, and then they're up by 22 at the end of the 3rd quarter, and it's like, "Oh, the Liberty are like, 'Can you just calm down?'" Like, that's what I just calm down, and I go back to the big sister, little sister thing, and even though, Stewie, Stewie and Candace are the veteran players on these teams, and so is Sloot. It's kind of funny because I know the Vegas team is younger than the Liberty team, at least I think barely, but they felt like the big sisters that were just beating up on their little sisters. I mean, and it was on Prime, so anyone can. And there's so many more people that can access it. I mean, other than ESPN or ABC, it's on Prime. They had people there. Vegas was just putting on a show. Some of their fans got free pizza when there was 2 free throws missed. Like, it was you could feel the atmosphere and how much the fans and the Aces just wanted to beat them into a pulp, and
Mhm.
that's why I'm still kind of like, "Oh my gosh," just kind of, like, catching my breath about how good the Aces were, on Thursday.
Oh, yeah, and, again, just, like, I really enjoyed watching that game, and I have really enjoyed watching the Aces this season as much as they're meant to be our big competition. They just they just play such flawless basketball. Like, it was just amazing to see, amazing to play against, just very smart decision making. And like what you were saying there, the biggest difference between the Aces, yes, okay, they're all individually skilled. They work well together. They have a great team structure, very fluid basketball. But the thing that really separates them from the other teams is that they want the ball. They actively, consciously are always thinking, I want the ball. No matter if they're up by however many points or if they're down, or they always want that ball and they never ever give up on a play, which is just like your play of the game that you've selected. They never ever give up on a play. They have just a completely different mentality to every other team in the league. And every team should have that mentality. Let's say that. But the Aces just absolutely stand out. And also, not to mention, they completely out assisted New York Liberty. They had
Yep.
32 assists in the game. 32 assists. Like,
It
they play so well together. They just know, they understand each other's game so well. And it's just such fun to watch them play.
Well, and I said that if the Liberty had 25 assists or more, that they would have a shot at this game. They had 21, which is still good, but they're averaging over 25 a game, so they had
Mhm.
to be they're normal. But I knew that that would be difficult because the Aces are tenacious. Aces are tenacious. That's gonna be a thing. Well, let's move on to the greener pastures. Oh, last thing though, my weird prediction was the Liberty bench was going to outscore the Aces bench. I mean, I was hopeful, but and they did 32-20, but not in the way that was necessary. It's because the starters were just like, time to sit. You're tired. We're out of this thing. Go play. And then the bench scored. But it's a little that doesn't tell the tale of the game. All right.
Yeah.
So greener pastures up in the Emerald City against Seattle. I believe you said that you thought Jewel was going to be the leading scorer. You were correct, and I thought Stewie was going to be, but Stewie had like 14 points early, and Jewel didn't have any. And then Stewie
Yeah.
just dropped off the face of the game, and then Jewel kept on. So I was like, I'm gonna win this one. And then I was like, where are you at, Brianna? I was
Yeah,
hoping
it
you would help
was.
me win this one. But I mean, they prevail 81-66. I mean, the second half, they lose the second half by 2 points, like 1 point each quarter, but they were up by 17 at half. This was in control for most of the game until a little bit in the fourth quarter where I got worried, but overall, I mean, we knew this was gonna happen, that they just kinda dominated the Storm.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. They did absolutely dominate the Storm. And I, like I said last week in the podcast, I had a feeling it would go this way where the top scorer would, first of all, be Joe Lloyd, but not only that, she would significantly outscore the rest of her teammates, which is exactly what she did. I think the closest scorer to her was 12 points, um, from Ezzy Magberger, and I just it we did absolutely kill them. Though I must say that I was really, really impressed with Joe Lloyd, as I always am. I always am impressed with Joe Lloyd. She is currently the leading scorer in the league, above Brianna Stewart and
And Enrique?
Ogunbowale. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, from Dallas. But I was really impressed with her. I just thought she played very smart basketball, and I know it's a shame that maybe the rest of the team didn't entirely make up for it, but she had a few plays. There was one in particular where I believe it was Lainey was marking her and she was behind the three, and Lainey was just she felt that her contact was just a little bit too close, so she was like, "Right, Imma pull up and Imma get the foul play for this." She
Oh
got it, she
gosh.
scored all 3
Yeah.
of her free throws, and it was just such an intelligent move, and she had many, many little points like that during the game where I was like, "You are such a baller," and it's just really entertaining to watch someone not only, like, play well, score well, but think of the game in such a different way to other players. It was just really cool to watch.
That was a smart play, and but Nigel was just mad. And
Yeah.
so, just, another time where, another player just kind of, like, makes us mad, but Jewel is outstanding. I mean, the reason why we got so many extra years from Sue is not only the work she put in with her trainer, Stanford trainer, which I am forgetting her name right now, to keep Sue's body in shape. But they had Jewel and Stewie as number one picks in 2015 and 2016, and Jewel left college a year early to go to the W, and that just lets you know that. I mean, and Jackie Young did the same thing. She left a year early, but there was no one for Jackie to play with because she was like the lone junior in that class. But that's what makes Jewel so special, and I know that they're 4 and 12 right now, but in my mind, it's not a bad year for them. I mean, you never wanna lose, but it's not a bad year for the Storm to be at the bottom of the standings because the 2024 draft class is so stacked if they all don't take their COVID year. So you could get a player to totally change things the way that Jewel did for Sue, and you never know because Jewel and Stewie, 2015, 2016, hey, they kill it and are a great team in 2018. So, we'll see what happens when the draft comes out after the year's over. But um, I love Jewel. I made sure to go see her play when she was in college. I was like, I have to see her play, and went to Oklahoma to make sure that happened. And I got to see a Julie oop, which for those of you that don't know, they used to run an alley-oop play at Notre Dame, and Jewel would I mean, she can't dunk, but just catch it and score as a guard because she could jump so well, and they just run a back screen and have her just Julie oop, so, uh, definitely love Jewel, but that 4th quarter when Seattle was coming back, it just seems so funny to me because Sammy Whitcomb had played for Seattle and then played for New York and then went back to Seattle, and she was a big instigator of them coming back, hitting 1 3 and, just scoring. But you talk about someone that always plays with heart and effort, and so I always liked watching Sammy do that, but this game, like I said, was owned by the Liberty. Sloot had 13 assists. I and she's from the Seattle area. So you come back home, you have her, and then Sabrina's from Northern California, and so then you have the Oregon fans that come up to watch Sabrina, and then you have, like, Sloot's hometown people, and it was like, "Oh, okay, here we go." Like, it's 13 assists, like, against 1 turnover.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Sloot. And we talked about this before the podcast. Sloot is 85 assists away from becoming 2 all-time in the W in assists to pass Tisha Pinachero, and if she plays this year and the next 2 years, I mean, I would see her becoming the all-time leader in assist in the W, so, that was just it was just fun, and they needed that game after going through the freight train that was Vegas.
Oh, yeah, that game was a revenge game. Like, not only, you know, did they win by such a significant amount, but they the 2 games, the Vegas game, the Seattle game, polar opposites. The effort from the Liberty was just so there the whole game. It was just hustle, it was fast basketball.
Yes.
It felt a lot faster than what it usually is because we tend to go into our set plays. We were just absolutely going off the fast break. They had 19 points off the fast break. They had how many points in the paint? 42 points in the paint. Now, yes, we had like Jonquel, she had not a terribly great scoring game, but I think most of those points in the paint were off of layups. And another thing I was very impressed about was Sloot a game. Not only does she have 13 assists, right? She had a great game, great assists, some really nice looks. She also had 18 points. And I just love to watch her play a lot more recently. I feel she's become more aggressive. She was just crossing people up and just going for it. She has that scoop that she's just perfected, and she got a bunch of steals as well, and loads of open shots for that. And it was just really, really great to watch them all play, but in particular, Sloot. She just played so well. And also this week she got her 2,500th assist. I
Yep.
think that was in the Aces game though. I don't think that was this game.
Oh, no, oh, maybe. Maybe, because the statistician that I used to look up my I don't know if they've updated since the Storm game. It's very it's
Oh,
either
okay.
one. It doesn't matter. She
Either
she
one.
definitely is
This week.
over, yeah.
This
Yeah, she
week.
got it this week because I don't think 86. Yes, you're correct because it is updated. Yes, you're correct. She got it in
Yeah.
the Aces game, which, I mean, that's an accomplishment in itself that you have the longevity to play in this league for so long, and she started off her career, and I think it was under 5 assists, and then right around, like, 2016 is when everything started going, and they were in the wubble. She averaged 10 assists a game. Woman averaged a double-double in a different way, but to average 10 assists,
Mhm.
and I think she had it's that game that she had 16 assists or 18 assists, and the record-breaking one for assists in a game was to her wife for a three-pointer, but then in the finals, Sue broke it, and I think Sue had, like, 18 assists in, like, one of the finals games, and so I'm just like, "Okay, yeah." Sue was like, "No, it's still me,"
Yeah.
even though Sloot
I'm
had
still
that, she was
here.
like, "It's still me." Yeah, which made me laugh, but, we talked about their assists, we talked about how Vegas had 32 assists against the Liberty. The the Liberty had 30 assists against the Storm, which, is great and necessary, but they're still hanging out at 14 turnovers and,
Yeah.
in this game. And it has to be around 12 in my mind. Even just a couple less, just to get a couple more shots off, that's gonna be like that razor thin difference. And in May, they averaged 16 and a half turnovers a game, and they dropped it down to around 14 and a half in June. So, especially when they're gonna get tired in July with all the games that they have coming, how much they take care of the ball. Even if they don't shoot well, getting more shots is gonna be huge, and especially because in the Aces game, a lot of their assists or sorry, their turnovers led to, points off turnovers for Vegas, whereas Vegas's turnovers didn't lead to points for the Liberty. So those are the things that I wanna see locked up here, coming up, but like I said, we're gonna break the season down into quarters, and we'll see how much 5 more games in the 2nd quarter, and then when we start that 3rd quarter, we'll see if they can improve even more. Um, like the Aces came out in the 3rd quarter, yeah,
Mhm.
but, uh, as long as they're a 4th quarter and I mean, I call the postseason overtime this year. As long as they're a 4th quarter overtime team, we're still gonna be good, but,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, being a fourth quarter and overtime team is certainly one to kinda get the heart racing, but I agree. I think we've kinda shown in a few games we can perform in those fourth quarters and overtimes, but I think for just that bit more consistency, it needs to be the third quarter that changes because we've not had a great track record for a third quarter. And like you're saying as well with the turnovers, Seattle had 19 points off of Liberty turnovers in that game, which is more than what the Liberty had off Seattle turnovers. So it's definitely something that needs to be doubled down on. And hopefully as the season goes on, there's more fluidity, people are settling better into their positions, and yeah, that's one to watch. One to watch.
Well, and then speaking of things to look forward to or hope that they kind of work on, in the next 3 games, they're playing the Mercury today, so by the time the podcast comes out, that game will be done, and then they have the Storm again on Saturday, and then they'll have the Fever next week. I wanna see a true back to the basket post up for John Quell. It's been a frustrating first 15 games of the season, and I know she's coming back from injury, and she wanted to be in New York, so I wanna see a true post up because in the Storm game, there was at one point that they had 5 out, John Quell was not in, they had 5 out, but not only did they have 5 out, they had 5 out, like, if not outside the 3-point line, very close to it. And so I want to see them kind of like muscle up and use their height. And Stewie's going to do her turnaround, jumper. That's fine. But I want to see John Quell like kind of like pound people down in the paint. And then if she's not going to do that, you know, we'll see when Steph comes back. But let's try Sabali. Let's try, Niara. She's young, and let's do that. You're literally at the bottom of the standings the next 3 games. I want to see them do that and attack that way because then that's going to have to draw the other team in, and then you have all the shooters to kick to if we actually
Mhm.
make sure we get to the block. So that is what I hope to see, and it's going to be hard because if
Yeah.
BG's healthy for this game against the Mercury, you get a formidable force down there to go against. But at least that will, maybe get some fouls on BG
Yeah.
in this game today.
No, for sure. I think frustration is a very great way to summarize John Quill's season so far. I like what you're saying about Sabali. In that Seattle game, she had half the minutes that John Quill had, but she had 5 rebounds compared to John Quill's 2 rebounds. So I think we definitely could be using Sabali a lot more because she's proven that like she has the drive in that Seattle game. She just wanted the ball. She was really, really just driven and she just wanted it. She wanted to take her time. She uses her minutes wisely. And I think she's
Yes.
she's gradually starting to prove like, you know, I'm here. I'm a strong player. You can rely on me. I'll put up good numbers and I'll be there when you need. I totally agree. And I think there was at one point in the Aces game as well where John Quill went to crash the boards and Kelsey Plum ended up with the rebound.
Yes.
And I was like, no, like this that's your ball, that's your board. You cannot let someone who is like half your height
Yep.
get the rebound over you. And there's like loads of times as well where like Ionescu has got a rebound over Jones, and I'm like, even at that, like,
Come on.
Sabrina, it should be you over Sabrina, surely.
Yeah. I I would also like to see some more pick and roll action because they did that. They had Sabrina and Stewie, and then they couldn't get back with a Jackie and Asia um, pick and roll that they did, and they couldn't switch off. And then Sabrina was stuck, and that happened and their loss to Chicago with Elizabeth Williams and Courtney Williams. Is that the Williams were pick and roll, and the switches happened, and then they got Sabrina stuck. So Sabrina knows how to be good on the pick and roll when she has the ball because they ran that a lot in Oregon. And that's one thing I think you miss with Steph is because Steph is so good at setting picks and rolling and then
Mhm.
finding other players. And so, Niara's done that at Oregon. Um, so let's use John Quell, not Stewie, but let's use John Quell on her width and then have everybody else separated. So at least you have John Quell going to the block. And I'm not saying that I'm not saying that John Quell shooting threes is bad because she's a good 3-point shooter, but get to the block just a
Mhm.
little bit more than you have been. Same thing with Sably, and then have Stewie roam a little bit more. But I want to see that to get other teams in situations where you get the guards on John Quell with, being 6'6" and those long arms. And then doing that gets her confidence up. And then everything else I think will fall into place because the frustration is the injury and the confidence because it's just everything's just been a little off. And then there's been some
Yeah.
moments in games where it's worked, but those are the those are the things of someone that does not have even a tenth of experience of everybody that is making the decisions for this team.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
not
we're the
even a tenth.
ones
Let's go.
talking, but I mean,
Not even a hundredth of the experience, but I would like to see something like that. Well, um, speaking of what we'd like to see, we do have the Mercury today. Got to go back to my unusual predictions. I had said that Ezzy would get more blocks than John Quell in that Storm game, and JJ had 2 and Ezzy only had 1, which is low for Ezzy, so, wrong on that one. But today, I got the Mercury at 6. My weird prediction is Phoenix will have more offensive rebounds than the Liberty, and
Okay.
but even though I do pick the Liberty to win this game, even if BG and Tarazi are playing, I feel like the Liberty are gonna come back and be at home and just run this because Mercury have been struggling. They've switched they've switched their coaches to Nikki Blue now, after Vanessa Nygaard, was let go, fired, after having probably one of the most tumultuous 1.5 seasons I've ever seen, or 1 1/4 seasons I've seen in the W. I mean, you talk about everything was just rough. But I do pick the Liberty today. What is your pick for the game today?
100% Liberty. I think even with BG and Taurasi playing, they're great players. BG's been putting up really great numbers, and same with Taurasi, but I still don't think that with them on the court, they're strong enough. I don't think they have enough depth, and I don't think that BG and Taurasi really play are more significantly impactful than our players that we've got. So, yeah, I have that on Liberty, probably fairly comfortably.
I agree. But one record that we need to talk about that
Mhm.
has to do with the Mercury is Diana Taurasi. I've said that I believe this is her last year. She will not come out and say that, but she has said that she wants to get 10,000 points in her career because that seems like, better, fuller number than what she set at. She is 142 points away from 10,000. She's averaging about 10 points a game. She's had a little bit of injuries. She is 41. So I think that if she stays relatively healthy, she'll get it before September. And I hope that she does. But what are your thoughts on Tarazi? Is this her last season?
I don't know. She's been very hush hush about it. And even with her, like, yeah, she's 41, she's still putting up good numbers. Like, she's still very high up in the assists list just now for this season. Um, and when she has been playing, like, she still looks fit. She still looks like she's keeping up with pace. So I don't know. I think she's definitely gonna want to hit that 10K before she retires. I really can't say. I hope it's not her last season. I really hope it's not. And I think based off of her play, I think she still has another year in her, another season. So we'll see. I would like to see her come back. I have a feeling if she hits the 10K, I think she'll retire. If she doesn't, I think she'll come back for another season.
Or she'll come back for 5 games and be like, I'm
Yeah,
out.
and then be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I'm done." Yeah.
Well, and then Phoenix is another team like Seattle that has the opportunity to get a really high draft pick in the lottery if they stay at the bottom of the standings, which, I mean, let's just come out and say it. If Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark, Cameron Brink are there, those are potential game changers for an organization. And
Mhm.
I believe that Caitlin Clark would be the number one pick if she decides to leave, which I don't see why she wouldn't.
Yeah.
Because you want to grow as a basketball player, and she's pretty much done everything she can. If she doesn't get injured, she could become the all-time leading scorer in Division One history, not NCAA Division One. I think she could break one of my favorite players, Lynette Woodard's all-time record, which is higher than the NCAA mark that Kelsey Plum has. And there's a part of me that doesn't want her to do it because I love Lynette Woodard and I love a Kansas girl holding on to that record, but also it's Caitlin Clark, and I mean, come on.
Yeah.
So if the Mercury get a high draft pick, who knows if Tarazi would want to hang around and be like, I want to hang around and play with this kid, especially if they did get
Mhm.
Caitlin Clark and then be like, here's a year of passing the torch and learning from her and then be out. So that's a
Yeah.
possibility. I still think she's going to be done, but who knows? She's
Who knows?
unpredictable. Eh. All right. So we have that game tonight versus the Mercury at home. Also at home. So they get to relax a little bit on Saturday. So home, had a game on Sunday. They get 2 days off and travel, so they're playing tonight, and then they'll have 2 days off after the game, and they'll play the Storm again on an ESPN game at 1 o'clock. So again, you get to watch it in normal time in Scotland at 7. So this will be the third time they've played the Storm. This will be the first time they play them in New York. I still think the Liberty are gonna take this one, but I think it's gonna be closer because there's only so many times you can really beat a team, like, and they've handled the Storm the first 2 games of, like, their competitions this year. My weird prediction is I think that Jewel this is a very one out there, and I don't know how much I believe this, but I'm gonna say it. I don't think Jewel or Stewie will be the leading scorer in the game on Saturday, overall. I can see a Sabrina coming out and being the leading scorer. Um, that's my prediction. I still think the Liberty are gonna win this one, in control. I don't think it's gonna be I think it's gonna be 10 points or less because the Storm are fighters and they've gotta get closer at some point. That's kind of like it seems very very like, "Oh, they gotta get closer," but, yeah, I have the Liberty against the Storm. Prediction, same?
Yeah, I am gonna take Liberty against the Storm again. I just don't see that the Storm will do it. So Joe Lloyd, anyway, I think she'll still be top scorer for the Storm, but I agree with you. I think Ionescu has had like a slight dip this past week. She's not put up terribly huge scoring numbers. Her rebounds and assists have remained fairly consistent, but I think it's about time. This seems to be the pattern. I think she's had a bit of a scoring dip. We're gonna come back home and she's gonna shoot the lights out again. She's gonna shoot the lights out. She's gonna be top scorer in the game. I think Stewart is still gonna put up high numbers, but Jewel is gonna score more than Stewie.
Uh,
Um,
so Jules overall leading scorer, Sabrina's the leading scorer for the Liberty. Is that what you're
no,
saying?
no, no.
Oh,
Sabrina overall leading scorer, but Jewel still leading for the Storm.
okay. So, yeah. So it goes Sabrina, Jewel, Stewie?
Yeah, Stewie. Let's go with
Gotcha.
that.
So we're gonna do an SJS, Sabrina,
Yeah,
Jewel, Stewie. Okay. I
yeah,
could
I
I
see
can
it.
go with that. Yeah, it's be interesting. So who's gonna have more three-pointers, Jewel or Sabrina? That's the question.
Let me see. How many 3 pointers did Jewel get in that game? Right, we have Jewel three
She have
pointers
7?
6. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, damn, that's a
Yeah,
very good question.
it is.
I think Ionescu.
Okay,
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say we we play great defense and we force Jewel to drive more. She'll still make that step back, those little spin shots, and they'll go in, but they won't be from three. Whereas
gotcha.
she'll be open for the three and she'll get those.
She'll just hang out and just make them all. Yeah.
Yeah.
I I'm gonna agree. I think Sabrina's gonna have more threes than Jewel in this game.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I'm going Sabrina on that one because I'm just gonna go no Jewel or no Stewie. Alright, so one of the most important games of the week is on Wednesday next week against the Fever on the road. Now, the first time they played the Fever, the Liberty murdered them, and Stewie had 45 points after that loss against Washington, which I was
In
like,
3 quarters.
in 3 quarters, yes. and I and I literally said that they were gonna probably lose to the Mystics and come back and murder the Fever. Nailed it. Good job.
Yeah.
I'm just giving myself a pat on the back on that one. But the Fever have played the Aces very close in 2 games, and I know they only have 5 wins right now, but they are formidable, and we've talked about this. And the Fever have something that the Liberty haven't had is that post presence, a true post presence with someone working on the block. Because Leah Boston is having an excellent year, and Melissa Smith, as another post that is dribbling and shooting threes and kind of making shots, is another post player that has been killing it. And she was, in my mind, on the verge of being an all-star, like very close. And there's just too many good players to have everybody do that. But this is one where I really, really want the Liberty to win, and I think they will, but I think it could be so close. And the Liberty kind of have to win it if they want a chance to be in the Commissioner's Cup final, because they're currently tied with Connecticut at 6-3, but they have the tiebreakers over Connecticut because they've beaten them twice. So if they win against the Fever, they're in, and most likely play the Aces, even though the Aces have 4 Commissioner's Cup games left, and they could still not make it, but they'd have to lose pretty much all of them to not make it. And as I said earlier, I don't think that's going to happen
It's
because
not
the
gonna
Aces are
happen.
going to just going to go. But this is going to be an interesting one. I'm going to jinx the Liberty and say that they're going to win this game. I think it's going to be, again, under 10 points because the Fever are just, again, chomping at the bit, kind of in a different way than the Aces. Oh gosh. It's gonna be I'm looking forward to this one, especially because of how well the Liberty played the first time against the Fever, and so I
Yeah,
think the Fever are gonna be like, "Not today." Um,
yeah,
and it's in Indiana, so you sticking
yeah.
with a 3-0 week? Are we gonna jinx them again?
I am also gonna go for a 3-0 week. I think I picture Fever, and they remind me a lot of Atlanta. They're a very feisty team, and they feed off high energy. So, I think it is gonna be a closer game, perhaps, than I don't wanna say that about Seattle. Closer game than Mercury, similar game to Seattle, but I think it's gonna be a lot more feisty, and I think I'm gonna make a little hot take for this game, but I think that Jonquel is gonna have a good game. I think this is gonna be her best game this week
I feel like
because
she has to, right?
I feel like she has to. I
Yes.
think, like, Aaliyah Boston, she's been killing it. She's been absolutely killing it. I think having her the likely matchup up against Jonquel, her feistiness and her drive is gonna push Jonquel. I feel like they're gonna feed off of each other's competitiveness. And yeah, I think Jonquel is gonna have a good game, and I hope she has a good game because we kind of need her to have a good game.
Yeah.
So yeah.
We need to have a strength on the boards, and this is gonna sound very weird because it has never happened. I would like to see the Liberty have Jonquel and Niara in at the same time to match the strength in the post of the
Mhm,
Fever with Melissa Smith and Aaliyah Boston. I would like to see that even just for, like, a couple minutes,
mhm,
as long pending but I know when Niara comes in, it's Jonquel needs a break or foul trouble, but I would like to see that happen just to see how it work because I don't because Steph won't be back yet.
mhm.
'Cause I don't think Steph's not coming back till after the All-Star break, but, oh my gosh, I wanna see Steph again against Boston because that first game, Boston attacked Steph and Jonquel, and, like, I remember talking about that, and I was like, "Ooh, this is gonna be fun." But yeah, I like that idea of kind of, "You gotta show up, Jonquel. You were
Yeah.
MVP 2 years ago. It's time. Like,
Mhm,
let's do this." And that will literally be the 18th game of the season, so we're right at the halfway point, so need this to turn everything
mhm.
around for you. Here's my weird prediction. I think the Fever are gonna outmake the Liberty on three-pointers in this game
Okay.
because the Liberty the last time they played made so many threes. I mean, Stewie went off. Made so many threes, and I feel like that's gonna be a point of emphasis for the Fever to have all the pressure on the outside because they're not strong inside, but if they do that, then that would open up for what you said about Jonquel has to have a good game.
Mhm.
So, Fever,
Yeah.
pressure on the outside, maybe that can open up the inside, and yeah, so this is one I really look forward to, especially because it will happen right before we do the podcast next week, so I will be, like, ready to talk about the
Yeah.
game that just happened. Right, so alright, so we are jinxing the Liberty, saying they're gonna have a 3-0 week and go into the All-Star break at 18-4, which, is pretty good. They're
Mhm,
sitting 2nd overall in the league. They have the same amount of losses as Connecticut, but, they have a higher percentage of wins even though Connecticut's played more, so percentage-wise, they are sitting 2nd to Vegas, which are oh, sorry, 11-4. 11-4, and, Connecticut is 12-5, and Vegas is 15-1. It's a mess. I it's if either one of the teams drops to the 4 seed for the playoffs, I mean, that's just you don't wanna be that because you don't wanna
no.
play Vegas, uh, but New
Yeah.
York and Connecticut, if that does end up happening as a semifinal, oh my gosh.
That will
It's
be
gonna
fun.
it will be
That will be
fun.
so funny.
One good thing about that make that prediction that I think that's gonna happen. One good thing about that is that they don't have to worry about flights as much because it's an easy
Mhm.
you can get on a bus and go from New
Yeah.
York to Connecticut, so whoever comes out of that, because 'cause I'm just saying that it's New York and Connecticut in the semifinals, whoever comes out of that will have less stress on their body from travel, even if they
Mhm,
play an extra game to play Vegas, where Vegas would have to fly to most places. Like, I don't see LA being being in the semis, and so I see them flying to Washington or Dallas, who knows,
mhm.
maybe Atlanta, Chicago. Um, so, I mean, that could be more of a stressor for Vegas, but it depends on how many games they have too, but, oh, there's an advantage of being a 2, 3 seed having to play, so they don't have to travel as much. Alright, last thing, we have all of the all-stars that are in are Asia Wilson, Jackie Young, Chelsea Gray, Arike Gumbawali, Satu Sabli, Brianna Stewart, Brittany Griner, Aaliyah Boston, Jewel Lloyd, and Nneka Ogwumike. Those are the starters this year. Uh, Nothing really too shocking. I think people are shocked about Alyssa Thomas not being a starter because she's just been killing it lately.
Mhm,
She is one of the reserves, especially with her triple doubles. And then reserves, Alyssa Thomas, Dewana Bonner, Elena Deladon, Nafisa Collier, Ezzy Magmagor, Cheyenne Parker for the Atlanta Dream. Oh gosh, I'm happy Cheyenne made it. That would be the
mhm.
Nalissa Smith one that I think would get in there. Alicia Gray, Kalia Copper, Kelsey Plum, and Sabrina Ionescu are the all and Courtney Vandersloot and Kelsey Mitchell. Yeah. So a good group of all stars. The fact that the Fever have two all stars this year is impressive after being last in the
Mhm.
league the last couple of years. But I mean, we got three. I know the Aces are gonna just say that they got four, but we got three, and I think it's a great group, and I'm looking forward to seeing the game. But I'm happy for Sabrina, Salute, and Stewie.
Yeah, I'm really happy. I think that selection is pretty much more or less exactly what I thought it would be. I think it's difficult with Alyssa Thomas because I know like she's been putting up some crazy numbers this season. She's been playing so well, but mm, I don't. She wasn't in my cut if I'm being completely honest with you. Not by a long shot. Like she was very much a contender, but I think this is like pretty much exactly what I was predicting it would be.
And And as much as good as Alyssa Thomas is not a showy player. It's
Mhm,
I mean, she's kind of, she's the A train. And so she's the player that if you are a person that does not follow the WNBA, doesn't know much about,
mhm,
which is unfortunate because she's so excellent at all the things she does. But she's not a big shooter, so like the votes don't happen that way because there's so many other ones that are scores in different ways and shoots. She's got her weird shot because of her torn labrums. But when it comes to just pure numbers, I mean, there's not too many people better than Alyssa Thomas this year when it comes to numbers across the board. She's top 10 in all statistical categories that aren't scoring, I swear, like everything, steals, rebounds, assists, all the triple doubles. But um, yeah, I think the only one I think I would substitute, even though the Dream are good, is I would have Melissa Smith in there instead of Cheyenne Parker. But the Dream are doing better than the Fever. I'm partial to Melissa Smith. Just I don't know. I've just liked watching her play this year. But overall, we got three players in there. Stewie's starting. I still wanna see Stewie and Asia not be captains and just get to play on the same team. Like, can we make a trade to make
oh,
that happen? But
yeah.
they're always just gonna put them against each other, and I think that's kind of unfortunate for fans. I would like it if you had someone else to be like, "Hey, I'm gonna resign from my captainship,
Mhm.
and I'm gonna play over here with her." And see what that happens, and see how that works. But that'd be the only thing I want different for the All-Star game is to see Stewie and Asia
Yeah.
play together.
No, that would be cool. That would be a really I really I wonder how their dynamic would work together because they tend to be generally they would mark each other in a
Mhm.
game. Um, yeah, that's a really weird one to think of how would they play together in a team? I
I
would
I
love
could
to
s
see that.
I could see some pick and rolls for
Yeah,
them,
for sure. Because 'Cause they're both
just to
very, like, very high IQ players, very, like, very good at seeing the open pass. I think they would work very well together.
like a nice little high-low off a pick and roll,
Yeah.
you know? Asia can shoot threes now. She's got a nice, elbow jumper, and then Stewie can go there. Just or they can just play keep away from whoever's guarding them, and then whoever, gets it near the end of the shot clock scores. That would be a fun one. Um, yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to, but, I mean, the thing I'm obviously looking forward to the most is if the W reads my tweet and puts Sid Colson and Stephanie Dolson together for the Colson-Dolson broadcasting
Oh, yeah.
extravaganza. Broadcasting
Oh, yeah.
experience, Colson-Dolson. Guys, how many who else would be more entertaining to comment on the All-Star game like a Bird and Tarazi do for the NCAA tournament than Sid Colson, Steph Dolson, Colson-Dolson? They're opposites, their
Awesome.
names rhyme, it is perfect.
It's perfect.
It's
It's
perfect.
perfect.
Yeah, it's perfect. Yeah, and then they need to talk about that Dream documentary at the All-Star game. Gonna keep
Yeah.
throwing out Stacia's wishes for the year, but
This is getting put on our highlights at the end of the year. How many times you mention it in an episode, that's another ding right there.
just ding, ding,
Ding.
ding. Dream documentary, Colson Dolson. Yeah, it's gonna be way too many. I If someone decided to track that, that wasn't me, I'd feel sorry for him, so, I mean, it'd have to be me. So, yeah.
We'll make
But,
James do it.
yeah, make James do it. Hashtag Colson Dolson, hashtag dream documentary. But, well, the Liberty this week go 1-1. They lose the battle of the air quotes super teams to the Aces. The Aces were extremely dominant. Liberty come back and just beat up on the Storm as just nice revenge for whatever to the Aces, even though it wasn't for the Aces, it was for themselves. Go 1-1, are 11-4, second in the league currently, and they have the Mercury, the Storm, and the Fever this week. Mercury and Storm are at home. Fever's on the road in the last game for the Commissioner's Cup where they can go try to get that money. And if they make the Commissioner's Cup final, they'll definitely have some money. And we have them going 3-0 this week. Knock on wood. Hopefully that does not jinx them, but we will be back next week to see on how much our jinx came through or not and see on how the Liberty improve. Looking forward to Sabrina's killer game against the Storm and John Quell's killer game against the Fever. But until then, for Across the Pond Liberty, I'm Stacia.
And I'm Kirsten.
All right, see everybody next week.
See you next week.